Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your news edition. These are the headlines. Algeria hosts the first edition of the African School Games, an event gathering more than 1,700 athletes from 50 African countries to promote young talents and reinforce the cultural and civilizational ties between the countries of the continent. In application of the principle of reciprocity, Algeria proceeds to the recovery of all privileged access permits to the Algerian ports and airports granted to the French embassy in Algeria. Bruno Retailleau is accused from within of weakening the social cohesion in France because of his hatred policy. From the Liberation Movement Summit in Johannesburg, several voices call for the Sahrawi right to self-determination. Welcome back. Starting with the sporting event under the patronage of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, the first edition of the African School Games was inaugurated yesterday evening in Annaba. The Games will be held in the provinces of Annaba, Constantine and Skikda and will continue until the 5th of August. The opening ceremony of these games took place at the May 19, 1956 stadium in Annaba with the attendance of the Minister of Youth in charge of the Supreme Youth Council, Mustafa Hidawi, the Minister of Sports, Walid Sadi, and the Minister of National Education, Mohamed Sghair Saadawi, members of the Olympic Committee, and a large crowd of citizens. More than 1,700 athletes from 50 countries are participating in this African event, in addition to a large number of athletes. The first African School Games hosted by Algeria aim to nurture student talents across the continent and serve a platform to deepen the cultural and civilizational ties among the African nations. Nadah Tiyar with the details.
Algeria is hosting the first African School Games 2025 in a unique initiative that blends education and sports, placing students at the heart of a project for continental unity. We are the Ugandan team, excited for the start of the competition, and I really like Algeria. We're looking forward to the opening of the Games. Our main goal is to win, but we also want to prove we're the best and proudly take the title home. Algeria's renewed embrace of its African roots is on full display as Stif, Annaba, Constantine and Skikda come alive with the energy of school sports. These cities have become a vibrant arenas of youth-driven competition, fostering grassroots cooperation through education and sport. We welcome our African brothers to the African School Games held in Annaba. We welcome them to Annaba. Algeria has always been welcoming, loving and supportive of neighboring countries. More than a medal count, this event stands as a symbol of the bridges Algeria is building between African nations. It reflects also a grassroots spirit of unity, supported by both political will and popular engagement, a clear expression of Algeria's vision for a united, supportive and renewed Africa.
The chargé d'affaires at the Embassy of France in Algeria was summoned once again to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs regarding the ongoing obstacles faced by the Algerian Embassy in Paris in the delivery and recovering of diplomatic bags in violation of the French government's international obligations, according to a statement from the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Initially limited to the Algerian Embassy in Paris, these restrictions have just been extended to the Algerian consular posts across the French territory, despite the commitment made by the Quai d'Orsay to ensure that this measure is reconsidered. In strict application of the principle of reciprocity, the Director of Diplomacy, Immunities and Privileges at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has proceeded to the recovery of all privileged access permits to the Algerian ports and airports granted to the French Embassy in Algeria. In France, the political situation is still tense. The French Minister of Interior is making the headlines again. He keeps attacking others, even people from his own side. Some say he is breaking the unity of the Republic just to reach his personal goals. Bruno Retailleau is also sharing more and more hostile and unfair messages, especially against Algeria. Details with Daniel Bahri.
In France, politics is deeply divided. Bruno Retailleau, a far-right politician, has increased his attacks even on people in his own party. His strong and extreme speeches are seen by many as a danger to the unity of the Republic. This has started a big argument between several important politicians. Former Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne openly criticized him. She said he is destroying the unity of the moderate group just to follow his personal goals. She also warned that this could weaken the fight against political extremes. Bruno Retailleau and Macronism is an ideology and a political party. Attempting to revise the common ground means weakening the walls against the extremes. Acting together requires mutual respect. Retailleau is not stopping. He keeps pushing his views, which is causing more problems inside the far-right camp. This shows the deep fight of ideas happening in French politics today, even though extremist movements are getting weaker because of their own mistakes and angry speeches. Bruno Retailleau still gets support in some French media. These media platforms have become places for strong, organized and hostile messages, especially against Algeria. Every time Algeria shows its independence and refuses to follow foreign pressure, the attacks increase and the media anger grows. The problem is that we are behaving with an extremely immature relationship with Algeria, and we are constantly running to please them. And I think the Algerians will end up breaking off diplomatic relations with France. Even though these political ideas seem to be failing, Bruno Retailleau still thinks he can force his unfair and discriminatory policies on the French people.
In Morocco, the health system is critical. According to the Global Location Healthcare Index of 2025, Morocco was ranked 92nd out of 94 countries. More details with Daniel Bahri.
The 2025 Global Relocation Healthcare Index once again reveals in its report that Morocco's healthcare system has fallen to the bottom of the regional and international rankings. Morocco ranked 92nd out of 94 countries included in the index, placing it last in Africa. Regardless of an individual's identity or the region in which they live, I firmly believe that our global commitment to sustainable development is a unique opportunity to address the social, economic and political determinants of health and improve the quality of life and health of people everywhere. The report was based on user surveys over the past 3 years, reflecting the magnitude of the challenges facing the Moroccan healthcare sector, given the lack of medical equipment, even if hospitals exist at all. If I go to a hospital, I have to recite the Shahada and wait to be buried. People are suffering there in the Moroccan hospitals. The report also indicated that the Moroccan healthcare system suffers from profound imbalances due to widespread corruption and as structures remaining out of touch with modern requirements, rendering the healthcare system's performance dependent on the practices of the Mahsen regime. Even the doctors don't treat us well. I have been waiting for 20 days. Because the health system is broken and the leaders are too strict, many Moroccans are protesting. They feel their rights and freedom were ignored by those in power who only care about their own goals.
During the Liberation Movement Summit in Johannesburg, the participants inquired about the evolution of the Sahrawi cause as Western Sahara remains the last colony of the continent. They also denounced the horrors of the Moroccan occupation forces and brought their support to the Sahrawi people in its fight for self-determination and freedom. Palestine now. Gaza faces a worsening crisis as starvation and attacks kill civilians. Over 1,000 have died seeking food. The United Nations call it a moral failure, urging immediate action. Nadah Tayyar with more details.
The Zionist anti-starvation campaign has reached a deadly point. The children are dying now slowly, like this child whose mother watches helplessly and her spirit fading with his every breath. And other moms spend their half day standing, wishing to go back home with food for their families. My son has severe acute malnutrition, which is one of the most difficult conditions and has become a hallmark of malnutrition and starvation. When he wakes up, I feed him the water we have because we have nothing else. I come every day at 7 and stay until 1 p.m. Sometimes I get food, sometimes I don't. My kids have to wait until the following day. Hunger strikes from one side, while bombs target the last remaining shelters from the other. This school, meant to be a refuge for families and their children, has been turned into a scene of death. The blood of innocents stains the courtyard and walls. The Palestinian families are torn apart and no longer able to hide their pain. In this school, the innocent people are being torn to shreds and burned to a crisp. Where do you want us to go? First I lost my father, then my brother, and now another brother, and all these innocent children. And for bearing witness and sharing these testimonies with the world in hopes of saving the remaining Palestinian victims, it is the journalists who are paying the ultimate price with their lives. The Zionist occupier targets the journalists in an attempt to silence their voice, the voice of truth that denounces the crimes committed. We will continue our mission, whatever the cost is. Palestine mourns its martyred civilians and those dying from a famine imposed by the Zionist blockade, which blocks humanitarian aid in defiance of international law. The situation in Gaza is unbearable, with civilians and aid workers facing inhuman conditions. The UN chief, Guterres, condemned the surge of death and destruction and the global indifference and inaction. And according to him, this is not just a humanitarian crisis, but a mortal one that challenges the global conscience. Since May 27th, over 100 Palestinians have died trying to access food. The UN warns the already catastrophic situation in Gaza. Starving women and children is not collateral damage, it's a war crime.
The humanitarian situation in Gaza is still disastrous. The director of UNRWA affirmed that the resumption of humanitarian airdrops on the Gaza Strip is an ineffective approach to a humanitarian situation that destroys the Palestinian enclave. According to him, the airdrops can even kill hungry civilians. Several humanitarian organizations have been affirming for months that they faced restrictions from the Zionist entity that kept them from spreading and sharing information regarding the humanitarian crisis. Even Lebanon is being bombed. A Lebanese was murdered following a Zionist drone airstrike that targeted a vehicle on the Tueri Srifa road in the districts of Sor in the south of the country. Despite a ceasefire agreement, the Zionist entity keeps bombing Lebanon. The Zionist army was supposed to completely remove its troops from Lebanon, but they're still present in 5 positions in the south of the country. As part of the humanitarian missions and efforts of the Coast Guard units of the National Forces Command to save lives at sea, the Regional Center of Surveillance and Rescue Operations at Sea in Algiers, in the 1st Military Region, received a distress call yesterday at 4:10 p.m. The alert concerned a father and his 2 daughters of Algerian nationality stranded on a rocky seashore 700 meters northeast of Tipaza due to deteriorating weather conditions. A rescue operation was immediately launched with the deployment of the AS-16 search and rescue helicopter from the 563 Search and Rescue Helicopter Squadron. The father and his daughters were evacuated to the Zeralda Hospital. The Regional Service for the Fight Against Organized Crime has dismantled a trans-border organized criminal network operating from Morocco. Following this intervention, 7 suspects were arrested. 18.048 kilograms of cocaine and a large sum of money have been seized. This operation is the result of important investigations that allowed to identify 2 members of this criminal group in Oran. One of them was wanted and used a fake ID. The drug was seized in a house where one of the suspects lived before arresting the 5 other members. The suspects were presented before the public prosecutor of the Specialized Criminal Unit of Oran. And with this, we come to the end of our edition. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Have a good night.